Ethan never expected to be sent on a peace mission to an alien world. He had always dreamed of exploring the stars, but this was different. His mission wasn't about adventure or discovery. It was about making sure humans and aliens could get along. He didn't know much about the aliens he was going to meet, only that they were different in almost every way. Their technology, their cultures, and their way of life were unlike anything he'd ever imagined. When the shuttle finally landed on the strange world, Ethan was both excited and nervous. The city in front of him was unlike anything on Earth. Tall, glowing structures stretched into the sky, made of materials that seemed to shimmer with an unnatural light. Streets lined with alien creatures of all shapes and sizes passed by him, each one giving him curious glances as he walked through the bustling market. There was a feeling of calm here, but also something that he couldn't quite place. Everything felt unfamiliar. It's like he was a visitor in a world he could never truly understand. His task was simple: gather information, meet with the alien leaders, and begin the delicate process of diplomacy. Ethan knew this wouldn't be easy, but he had to do his part to ensure peace. As he walked through the market, observing the strange goods and foods that were being sold, something caught his eye. A figure stood in the distance, watching him. She was different from the rest. While most of the aliens around him were busy with their daily activities, she stood still, her eyes fixed on him. Ethan could tell she wasn't like the others. She had a certain grace, a calmness about her that made her stand out in the crowd. She was tall, even by the standards of the aliens on this planet. Her skin had a light blue hue, almost like the sky at dusk. Her hair was long, flowing in soft waves that shimmered under the alien sun. She wore clothing made from materials that seemed to shift colors as she moved, almost as if it was alive. Her eyes, a striking shade of violet, locked onto his. Yes. There was something about the way she looked at him, curious, intrigued, yet also playful. Ethan couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. He had been trained to expect the unexpected on this mission, but this was different. This felt personal, as if she were looking straight into his soul. For a moment, neither of them moved. Ethan didn't know what to do, and neither did she. But then, with a slight tilt of her head, she started walking toward him. Ethan's heart beat a little faster. Was this part of the plan? Was she a representative from one of the alien factions? Or was she just another curious citizen? When she was just a few steps away, she stopped. Ethan could feel her presence even without her saying a word. There was a silence between them, and for a moment, all he could hear was the soft hum of the city around them. "Hello, human," she said softly, like the sound automatic and smooth, like the sound of a gentle wind. Words were clear, though her accent was unlike anything he had ever heard. "You are the first human I have seen in person." Ethan blinked, surprised by the directness of her statement. Yes. I'm here on a peace mission," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "My name is Ethan," she smiled, and for a brief second, Ethan felt his nerves ease. Her smile was warm, genuine. "Ethan," she repeated softly, tasting the sound of his name. "I am Lyra." Ethan nodded, unsure of what to say next. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Lyra." Lyra took a step closer, her eyes never leaving his. "I've been watching you," she said, her voice lower now, almost a whisper. "You are... different from the others, not like the ones I've seen before." Ethan felt a little self-conscious under her gaze, but he didn't step back. He was here to represent humanity after all. "I'm just here to do my job," he said, trying to keep things professional. Lyra tilted her head again, studying him. "Closely your job?" she asked, her tone curious. "You were a man of duty then?" Ethan wasn't sure how to answer that. "Suppose you could say that." "I'm here to help build a better relationship between our people." Lyra's eyes sparkled with interest. "And what do you think of us, Ethan?" she asked, her voice almost teasing. He was taken aback by the question. He hadn't expected something so personal. Thought about it for a moment. "I think you're a lot more complex than I thought. There's a lot to learn here." Lyra's smile widened, and she stepped even closer. "Complex? Yes. But are we not all complex, Ethan?" For a moment, Ethan was unsure what she meant, but there was something in her expression that made his heart race. It wasn't just the way she looked at him. It was something else, something he couldn't quite place. About him. She was intrigued. She was studying him in a way that made him feel like he was the only person in the room. And then, without warning, she raised her hand and gently touched his arm. Ethan froze. The touch was soft, almost electric, and he felt a strange warmth spread through his body. I think Lyra said softly, "You are more than just a visitor here, Ethan. I think you are the beginning of something new." Ethan didn't know how to respond. Was she being serious? Was this some kind of test? Or was she flirting with him? Before he could say anything, Lyra stepped back, a mysterious smile on her face. "You'll see," she said cryptically. "We'll meet again." And with that, she turned and walked away, disappearing into the state. Crowd as quickly as she had appeared, Ethan stood there, still trying to process what had just happened. He wasn't sure what to make of Lyra. Her beauty, her charm, her attention, it all felt overwhelming. But he also knew that he had a job to do. There was no room for distractions. He had to focus on his mission. But as he continued walking through the marketplace, one thought kept running through his mind. What did she mean by that? The next few days on the alien planet were nothing like Ethan had expected. He had come for peace, to help foster a relationship between humans and the alien species, but now he found himself distracted by a mysterious encounter with Lyra. Eyes, the way she looked at him, her strange but inviting smile, all lingered in his mind. Despite his training and focus on his mission, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the alien girl. He hadn't seen her again, but he knew that he would. It wasn't long before he got another chance to encounter her. Ethan was walking through the city's central square when he saw her once more. This time, she was waiting for him. She stood by one of the tall, glowing trees, her figure bathed in the soft blue light from above. There was a sense of calm around her, a kind of silent invitation, and Ethan felt drawn to her, though he knew he shouldn't be. Lyra smiled when she saw him. This time, her approach was different, more direct. As she walked towards him, her steps were graceful, almost deliberate. "I see," and Ethan couldn't help but notice the way her eyes sparkled with something deeper than curiosity. "Ethan," Lyra said, her voice soft but confident. "It's good to see you again." Ethan smiled politely, trying to keep his composure. "It's nice to see you too, Lyra. I didn't expect to run into you here." She laughed, a soft melodic sound that made Ethan feel strangely at ease. "You should expect to see me, Ethan," she said, stepping a little closer to him. "I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation." Ethan's heart beat a little faster. He wasn't sure where this was going, but something told him it wasn't going to be just another casual chat. "I hope I didn't say anything wrong," he said, trying to sound casual. Lyra shook her head gently, a playful glint in her eyes. "No, Ethan. You were perfect. But now I want to learn more about you." She moved closer still, her voice lowering, becoming more intimate. "I want to understand what makes humans special. What makes you different from the others?" Ethan blinked, feeling a sudden wave of uncertainty. What was she asking? He wasn't sure how to answer. "Well, we're just like any other species, I guess. We have our strengths and weaknesses. We care about connection, about understanding each other. We form bonds." Lyra's eyes darkened slightly, though the playful smile never left. Her lips. "Bonds," she repeated, her voice almost a whisper. "That sounds beautiful." She stepped even closer to him, and this time, Ethan felt a warmth radiating off her. He could see the way her skin shimmered in the light, the way her hair flowed with each gentle movement. She was beautiful, in a way that was almost unreal. But there was something else about her, something that made Ethan feel both captivated and uneasy. Lyra reached out, her hand lightly brushing his arm. The contact sent a small shock through his body, and he stiffened for a moment, unsure how to react. "Humans are so different," she murmured, "but I've learned that I like what I see in you." Ethan was caught off guard. This was not what he had expected from their last meeting. Lyra had been curious. Yes, but this felt like something else. She was trying to get close to him, but why? Was it just her species' way of learning, or was there something more? I'm not sure I understand, Ethan said slowly, his words cautious. Are you saying you want to learn about me? Like this? He didn't want to assume anything, but something in the air made the question feel more significant then. It should. Lyra smiled, and for a moment, her expression softened, as though she was about to reveal something deeper. Yes, Ethan, she said, her voice now gentle but sure. I want to understand more than just your ways of peace. I want to understand you. I want to understand how humans love, how you feel, how you connect with others. Ethan stood still, unsure what to say. He wasn't sure if this was part of some cultural study, some alien method of communication he didn't know about, or if Lyra had deeper feelings for him. But he didn't want to jump to conclusions. He'd come to this world to help create peace, not to get involved in something he didn't understand. But before he could speak, Lyra reached up, brushing a strand of his hair behind his ear. Her touch, sending another wave of warmth through his body. I know you're not like the others, she said softly. You don't seem to be like the other humans I've seen. There's something different about you, something ... special. Ethan felt a deep knot form in his stomach. He couldn't deny that there was something magnetic about her, something that made him feel like he was losing control of the situation. But he had to stay focused. This was important, he reminded himself. This mission was too important for distractions, Lyra, Ethan said, gently pulling back a little. I came here for peace. I'm here to help build a connection between our people. I don't think I can. I'm not asking you to forget your mission, Lyra interrupted. Softly. I just want to understand you. I want to know how a human feels, how you care. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to find his words. He had never been in a situation like this before, wasn't sure how to react, but he couldn't just push her away either. I don't think I'm the right person for this kind of thing, Lyra, he said quietly. I'm here to help, to learn, but this isn't why I came. For a moment, there was silence between them. Lyra's expression faltered slightly, as if she hadn't expected him to reject her so easily. But then, she took a step back, her posture softening. I see, she said, her voice now tinged with something unreadable. I misunderstood. I apologized, Ethan. I thought maybe I could learn more by getting closer. Ethan felt a weight lift from his chest, but he wasn't sure how to proceed. It's not that, he said quickly. It's just ... I came here for a bigger purpose. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, her gaze serious now. Perhaps I need to learn more about how humans ... really connect. But thank you, Ethan. I will respect your wishes. Ethan nodded, though his mind was still racing. Thank you for understanding. And with that, she turned away, disappearing into the crowd, leaving Ethan standing there, his thoughts tangled and his heart still racing. What had just happened? What had Lyra truly wanted from him? Ethan spent the next few days trying to focus on his mission. He had meetings with alien leaders, discussions about peace agreements, and plans to share information between their species. But every time he tried to concentrate, his mind kept drifting back to Lyra, her eyes, the way she had looked at him, and her touch it all kept replaying in his head. He had made it clear to her that he was there for peace, and he hadn't meant to lead her on. Yet her words still echoed in his mind. She had been so determined to learn about human emotions, about connection. He understood that she was curious, but he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable with how quickly she had tried to get close to him. It was frustrating. Ethan had expected to deal with cultural misunderstandings and language barriers, but this was something different. He had never expected to be part of someone else's personal journey for knowledge. He had his own job to do, and it didn't involve teaching an alien about human emotions. Meanwhile, Lyra wasn't giving up. She had misunderstood Ethan's reaction as a challenge, not a rejection. In her culture, if someone seemed closed off, it was only because they didn't yet understand the true meaning of connection. She believed that if she could show Ethan what she thought was the right way to connect, he would change his mind. Days passed, and Ethan's encounters with Lyra became more frequent. She found him wherever he went by the markets, near the city's gathering spaces, and sometimes just standing in his path as if waiting for him to notice her again. Each time she tried to speak with him, to explain her actions, but Ethan remained polite and distant. One evening, as Ethan walked back to his quarters after a long day of meetings, he spotted Lyra waiting for him by the entrance. She looked beautiful under the soft moonlit sky, her long hair shimmering in the gentle light. But her expression was different this time. There was no playful smile, no teasing look. Instead, she looked serious, almost frustrated. "Ethan," she said, her voice softer than usual, but with an edge of determination. "We need to talk." Ethan sighed, feeling a mix of concern and weariness. He had hoped their last conversation would be the end of this, but it seemed like Lyra wasn't ready to let go. "Lyra, we've talked enough. Told you I'm not here for what you're asking. My mission is important and I need to focus." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes intense. "Why do you avoid me, Ethan?" she asked. "I don't understand. I've tried to get closer to learn more about you, but you keep pushing me away. Do you not like me?" Ethan's heart sank at her words. Wasn't that he didn't like her, he liked her too much, admired her beauty, her strength, and her confidence. But that wasn't why he was here. Wasn't supposed to form personal attachments or relationships. He was here for peace, to help bridge the gap between two very different species. "I do like you, Lyra," Ethan said, his voice gentle but firm. "But that's not why I'm here. I can't get involved in this. I came here to help. I came here to make sure humans and your people can work together. We can't do that if I'm distracted by this." Lyra stared at him, her expression unreadable. For a moment, the world around them seemed to fade away. She wasn't sure if she was angry or sad, but something in her chest tightened. Had never been told no in such a way. In her world, emotions were always shared, always understood. But with Ethan, it was different, and she didn't like it. "I don't understand," she whispered, more to herself than to him. I thought I was doing everything right." Ethan took a step closer, his tone softening. "Lyra, you don't have to understand everything. Right now, I'm just not the right person to teach you. I'm not here for that. I'm here to build a future for both our people." Her eyes were searching his face, trying to find something that would convince her to try again. But the expression on his face didn't change. He was firm in his decision, and she could see that. The realization hit her harder than she expected. She had hoped that her charm, her beauty, her desire to learn would be enough to draw him in, but it wasn't. There was something in his words that made her realize that this was about more than just attraction. "I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable," Lyra said, her voice quieter now. "I didn't mean to. I only wanted to understand." Ethan's heart softened at her words, but he didn't know what to say. He'd already made his position clear. He wasn't interested in starting a relationship or exploring human emotions. With her, he had to focus on his mission. It wasn't personal, it was just what needed to be done. "You don't need to apologize," Ethan said gently. "I think you're amazing, Lyra. You're curious and strong. And that's why I think you'll do great things for your people. But this, it's not something I can give you." Lyra nodded, her gaze lowering. She didn't know how to feel. On one hand, she understood that she had misunderstood Ethan's intentions. But on the other, she felt an ache inside her. She had never faced rejection like this. She had always been in control, always able to get what she wanted, until now. "You're right," she said finally, her voice steady, though there was a hint of sadness. "Maybe I was too eager. Maybe I thought I could make you see me the way I see you." Ethan could see the pain in her eyes, and it made him feel guilty. He didn't want to hurt her, didn't want to make her feel like she wasn't enough, but he couldn't give her what she wanted. Not now. "Not ever. I think you'll find someone who can understand you better, Lyra," he said, his voice kind but firm. "Someone who can show you what you're looking for." She didn't respond right away. She stood there, her expression unreadable. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then finally, Lyra took a deep breath and nodded. Double quotes. "Thank you, Ethan," she said softly. "I'll learn to understand." And with that, she turned and walked away. Her figure disappearing into the darkness of the alien city, Ethan stood there for a moment longer, his thoughts swirling in his mind. He had hoped this wouldn't happen. He had hoped that things could stay professional, that he could focus on his mission without personal complications. Lyra had shown him something he hadn't expected, just how complex emotions could be, even for an alien. With a heavy sigh, Ethan turned and continued. On his way, he had a mission to finish. And for now, that was all that mattered. The following days were quiet. Lyra had disappeared, at least from Ethan's daily routine. He hadn't seen her around, and though part of him was relieved, another part of him couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. He didn't want to hurt her feelings, but he had made it clear that he wasn't interested in what she was offering. His mission was too important. His focus had to be on the bigger picture, peace between humans and aliens. But something in Ethan had shifted. He couldn't stop thinking about Lyra. She was different from the others he had met on this planet, her curiosity, her drive, and the way she approached everything with such intensity. It was clear she had a deep longing to understand, and that made her fascinating to him. Yet, he couldn't ignore the fact that her emotions had been so overwhelming. Especially after their last conversation, Ethan found himself wandering the alien city once again, a restless feeling gnawing at him. The hustle and bustle of the marketplace around him seemed distant, as if the noise were fading into the background. He had hoped that focusing on his work would clear his mind, but it hadn't. He kept picturing Lyra's face, the way her expression had changed when he rejected her. He couldn't help but wonder if he had been too harsh, too firm. Maybe there had been another way to say it. He could have been kinder, gentler, but he hadn't. He had been too focused on his mission to see what was right in front of him. As Ethan passed by one of the city's many gathering spots, he caught a glimpse of a familiar face. It was Lyra, standing at the edge of a large fountain, her eyes downcast as if lost in thought. She wasn't looking for him. She was simply standing there, her hands gently touching the water. Ethan hesitated. He wanted to turn away, to continue on his way and pretend that he hadn't seen her. But something inside him told him that this was his chance to make things right. With a deep breath, Ethan walked over to where she stood. As he approached, he could hear the soft sound of her breathing, the water rippling gently in the fountain. She seemed unaware of his presence, her mind far away from the world around her. It wasn't until he was only a few steps away that she looked up, her violet eyes meeting his. There was no surprise, no alarm in her gaze, just a quiet recognition, as if she had expected him all along. "Ethan," she said softly, her voice calm but distant. "I didn't expect to see you here. I didn't expect to be here either." Ethan replied, his voice lighter than he'd expected. "I was just walking, thinking." Lyra nodded, her expression unreadable. "I see." There was an awkward pause, and for a moment neither of them knew what to say. The silence stretched on, heavy with unsaid words. Ethan could feel the tension between them, the quiet understanding that things hadn't been resolved between them. He needed to break the silence, to somehow make it right. "But how?" "I wanted to apologize," Ethan said suddenly, his words surprising even himself. "I know I didn't handle things well. I shouldn't have been so firm with you. Didn't mean to hurt you." Lyra looked at him for a long time, her eyes searching his face. "You were right," she said quietly. "I pushed too hard. I thought I could learn by getting closer to you. I didn't understand that humans aren't like my people. Don't just bond easily." Ethan's heart softened at her words. She wasn't angry or resentful. She was just trying to understand. That's what had driven her all along, to understand him, to understand humans. She wasn't like the others. She didn't want to manipulate or control, she just wanted to learn. To connect. "I think you do understand," Ethan said, his voice thoughtful. "You've just been looking for the wrong kind of connection. It's not about getting close right away. Humans, well, we need time. We form connections through trust, through shared experiences. It's not about a single moment." Lyra's expression softened, and for the first time, Ethan saw the vulnerability in her eyes. It wasn't about rejection anymore. She had realized, just like him, that things weren't as simple as they seemed. "So I was wrong?" she asked her, voice barely above a whisper. "No," Ethan replied quickly. You were curious, and that's not wrong. You just needed to know that there's more to it than than just attraction. It takes time. It takes trust. Lyra nodded slowly, absorbing his words. Trust, she repeated. I've always been told that connection is immediate. But it seems I have much to learn. Ethan smiled gently. We all do. For a few moments, they both stood in silence, watching the water ripple in the fountain. It was as if the weight between them had lifted, and now there was a new understanding, a new bond. It wasn't about attraction, and it wasn't about rushing into anything. It was about taking the time to understand each other, to build something. Real. I'm glad we talked, Lyra said after a while, her voice calm and steady. I don't expect you to change your mind. I just wanted to understand, to learn. And now, I see that you were right. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. I'm glad too, Lyra. I hope you don't think that just. Because I'm focused on my mission, it means I don't appreciate you. I do. You're different from anyone I've met here. I respect that. Lyra smiled, a small, genuine smile that made her eyes sparkle. Thank you, Ethan, I think. Think I can understand now. Maybe we don't need to rush into anything. Maybe we can just be friends. Ethan felt a weight lift off his shoulders. That was all he had wanted. A friendship. A connection built on respect and understanding. Maybe that was the way forward. Not just for him and Lyra, but for both their species. Friends, he agreed, a smile tugging at his lips. I think that's a good start. And with that, the tension between them melted away. Lyra turned her gaze back to the fountain, her fingers lightly tracing the water's surface. Ethan stood beside her, feeling a calm settle over him as he realized that the path to understanding didn't have to be complicated. Sometimes, it just took time and the willingness to listen and learn. The future between humans and this alien species seemed a little clearer now, and Ethan felt hopeful for the first time since he had arrived on this strange world. Perhaps in time the bonds between them could be stronger than either of them had ever imagined. The days that followed were different. Ethan no longer felt the same pressure he had before. After his conversation with Lyra by the fountain, a sense of peace had settled over him. They hadn't rushed into anything, but their bond, however, small, had grown. They began to share more moments, little conversations that didn't revolve around misunderstandings or confusion. For the first time, Ethan began to see Lyra not as someone trying to win him over, but as someone trying to learn and understand, just as he was trying to do with her people. He realized that the connection between them wasn't about attraction or romance. It was about building trust and finding common ground, no matter how different they were. Lyra, for her part, had grown quieter, more thoughtful. She seemed content to spend time with him without rushing things. They walked through the city together, exploring different parts of the alien world. She showed him the gardens where the alien trees grew, their branches heavy with glowing fruit. The fruits weren't edible to humans, but the sight of them, hanging from the branches like colorful jewels, filled Ethan with a sense of wonder as they walked. They spoke of their respective worlds' humanity's history and struggles, and the strange, peaceful ways of Lyra's people. They didn't dwell on their past misunderstandings, and they didn't try to push the limits of their relationship. It was simple. It was easy. And for once, Ethan felt like he could breathe again. One afternoon, as they sat by the edge of a crystal-clear lake, Lyra spoke again, breaking the silence that had fallen between them. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft golden glow over the water. The air was calm, and the sound of gentle waves lapping against the shore created a peaceful atmosphere. Ethan, Lyra said softly, her voice almost a whisper, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, the part about taking time, about trust. I've spent so long trying to rush, trying to find answers in an instant. I thought if I understood emotions quickly, I could control them, but I realize now that I was wrong. Ethan looked at her, surprised. He hadn't expected her to bring up their conversation again, especially not so soon. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized that Lyra had been on her own journey, just like him. They were both learning. Maybe that was the most important part of all. You're not alone in that, Ethan said gently. Humans do that too. We're all in a rush sometimes, trying to figure things out. Right. But sometimes the answers take time. And the most important thing is to be patient with ourselves and with others. Lyra looked down at her hands, her fingers gently tracing the smooth stone at the edge of the lake. I've always been taught that we must control everything, she said. Our emotions, our thoughts, our actions. But with you, Ethan, I feel like I don't need to control anything. I can just ... be myself. Ethan felt his heart warm. At her words, he had never thought of it that way before. He had always thought that being in control meant being strong. But Lyra was showing him that true strength came from understanding and accepting the things you couldn't control. He smiled. At her, offering a simple gesture of understanding. Maybe that's what makes us different, he said. You don't have to control everything. Sometimes just being open, being honest with ourselves, is enough. Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment, Ethan saw something new in them. A spark of understanding, a quiet acknowledgement that they had both come a long way since their first meeting. They weren't the same people they had been before. And while the future was still uncertain, they both knew that they had grown in ways they hadn't expected. The afternoon passed quietly. The two of them sitting in the warm light of the setting sun, sharing simple words and thoughts. There were no rushes, no expectations. It was just two people from two different worlds, sharing a moment of understanding. As they stood to leave, Lyra turned to Ethan, a small smile on her lips. Thank you, Ethan, she said, for showing me that there's more to life than speed and control, I think. I think I'm starting to understand what it means to truly connect. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment that he hadn't realized he was missing. It's not about how fast we get there, he said. It's about the journey and the people we meet along the way. They walked back toward the city together, side by side. There was still much to do, much to learn. But for the first time, Ethan felt like he wasn't walking alone. And maybe, just maybe, this new bond with Lyrith, this quiet, unspoken connection, was the first step in building something even bigger. The days continued to pass, and Ethan's time on the alien planet was quickly coming to an end. He had completed the tasks he was assigned, met with the leaders, and helped establish a foundation for future cooperation between humans and the alien species. But something else had changed during his stay, something he hadn't expected when he first arrived. Lyra had become more than just a curiosity or an unexpected distraction. She had become a friend, someone he could talk to about the strange world he had found himself in. She had taught him more than just the ways of the alien. She had shown him the value of patience, understanding, and the importance of forming true connections. Despite the growing friendship between them, Ethan still knew he couldn't stay. His mission was important, and it was time for him to return to Earth, to report back to his superiors. But the thought of leaving, of saying goodbye to Lyra, made his heart heavy. He hadn't anticipated forming such a bond, especially with someone from another world. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting a soft orange glow over the alien city, Ethan stood at the edge of the same lake where he and Lyra had shared their quiet conversation days ago. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees, and the water shimmered in the fading light. Ethan watched the ripples spread out across the lake, his mind filled with thoughts of the future. Ethan, Lyra's voice called softly from behind him. He turned around to see her walking toward him, eyes full of curiosity, but also something else, something deeper, something he had seen before, but had never fully understood until now. Lyra, Ethan said, offering a small smile. I didn't expect to see you here. She stopped beside him, her presence calming, and for a moment, they both stood in silence, watching the peaceful water. I knew you'd be here, Lyra said quietly. I've been watching you for days, Ethan. I thought you might be feeling like something was missing. Ethan nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. His time here had changed him. He had arrived as a representative of Earth, focused on his mission, but now he felt different. The connection he had formed with Lyra, the conversations they had shared, had opened his eyes to a bigger picture that wasn't just about two species trying to understand each other. but about two individuals, regardless of their backgrounds, trying to understand each other as people. I didn't expect it either, Ethan said, his voice soft. When I first came here, I thought I knew what to expect. But this place, these people, you've all shown me something I never knew I needed to learn. Lyra looked at him, her violet eyes searching his face. What have I shown you? She asked, her voice sincere. You've shown me that it's not about rushing, Ethan said thoughtfully. It's about patience. It's about building trust, I think. I think I've learned more about myself from you than I ever could have imagined. Lyra's expression softened, and she stepped a little closer to him. You've taught me too, Ethan. I thought I had to control everything, to understand everything immediately. But you've shown me that some things take time. Some things we just have to experience. Ethan smiled, his heart swelling with a mix of emotions. We're not so different, are we? No, Lyra replied softly. Not at all. There was a long pause, and for the first time, Ethan truly felt the weight of what he was about to leave behind. He had come to this alien world expecting to help build a bridge between humans and the alien species, but he had never expected to build such a personal connection. The truth was, he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to say goodbye. Lyra, he began, his voice quieter now, I have to go back to Earth. My mission is finished. And I've done what I came here to do, but ... It's not easy. I've grown fond of this place, of you, and I don't know if I'm ready to leave. Lyra's face softened with understanding. She had known this day was coming, but that didn't make it any easier. She had learned to value the moments they shared, to appreciate the quiet connection they had built. She wasn't sure what the future would hold for them, but she knew that their time together had been meaningful. I know, Ethan, she said softly, her voice steady. I knew this would happen. But I want you to know something. No matter where you go, no matter how far apart we are, you've changed me. You've shown me what it means to truly connect with another being, and I'll never forget that. Ethan looked at her, his heart heavy with emotion, reached out and took her hand, the gesture simple but full of meaning. Thank you, Lyra. You've taught me more than I could ever teach you. Lyra smiled, her eyes glistening with something unspoken. Maybe we'll meet again someday, Ethan, she said. The universe is vast, and you never know where life will take us. But no matter what happens, I will always remember you. The sun had almost completely set now, the sky turning darker as the stars began to appear. Ethan and Lyra stood together, side by side, their hands still gently touching. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. There was no rush, no deadline, just two people sharing a quiet, beautiful moment together. They had come from different worlds, but for now, they were just two people. Connected by a bond they had built together, Ethan knew that leaving would be hard. But he also knew that what he had learned here, what he had shared with Lyra, was something he would carry with him for the rest of his life. He had come to this planet to help build peace, but in doing so, he had found something even more valuable, a true connection with another being, as the last light of the sun dipped below the horizon. Ethan and Lyra stood silently, side by side, knowing that the future was uncertain, but that whatever came next, they had learned something invaluable. Their connection had taught them both the importance of trust, understanding, and patience, and in that, they had found something truly special. And though they didn't know what the future would hold, one thing was certain, their worlds had collided, and something beautiful had been created in the process.